Right, this is the marking out of part 4 of the 2009 Ordinary Level Practical Project, the airplane. This is one of the easier parts. We have to mark it out, drill it, and then bend it to the correct shape. So this is the piece we're getting that 4 marked on the back. I've blued it already so that it should be easier to see the markings out on the piece as we do it. So it's 20 millimeters across and then 16 plus 16 plus 16 high. That would be a total of 48 millimeters. This piece is slightly over that, so we're going to mark the 20 across first. Piece should be lined up with the end of the ruler. Using our scriber, then we're going to mark where 20 is, and we're going to T-square that line up. Because the piece is thinner than this gap here between the blade and that handle, we need to hold this up in our hand. I've got that in position, and then just T-square the line along, and we have 20 millimeters up from here across, and then the line up. Now the handiest way is to mark these 16s all the way up, and doing a little bit of maths in your head will make things better. So we're going to mark trying to get it flat first. Mark 16 millimeters. Which is probably hard to see from, I'm trying to get an angle here that you can see it. I'm going to mark 16 millimeters first, there. 16 plus 16 is 32. And 16 plus 32 is 48, which is very close to the end here. That's it. And we're going to T-square those 3 lines across. These are bend lines here, and I usually like to do them dashed when I'm doing the marking out, just in case I forget later on that they have to be bent or where the bending occurs. And we do the last one then. Okay, now we have the 3 sections marked off. We have our waist out here to the side, which I'm just going to scratch, makes it more obvious. And now we have to get the centre for this hole. Now, there's 2 ways of doing that are pretty obvious. We know it's 10 millimeters in, so we could measure in 10 here and T-square line up, and then find the halfway point, which would be 8 up from here. There's actually an easier way of doing it. This is a rectangle, and this is in the centre of the rectangle. So if we do an X from corner to corner, we find the centre automatically. And that's the way I'm going to go with it. So putting the point to my scriber here at one of the corners, line up, and I'm only going to do a little bit of the X in the middle, near where I need it. Turn the ruler around the other way, point in one of the opposite corners, line up my ruler, and there we have our piece marked out. Now punch this and then we'll drill it. So I'm going to punch first of all. It's aluminium, so you don't want to punch it too hard. Line that up carefully. Nice gentle tap. That should be enough for the drill. So we're going to go do that next. Right, so I'm going to drill 3.5 hole in the middle here. I'm going to use a hand vise to hold the piece of metal while I drill it. This is a safer and more secure way than just using your hands. And a vise isn't really a good idea for thin aluminium like this, because it's just going to collapse under it. So just checking now that I have a decent location of room there. This drill is going to be loud, sorry about this now. I'll turn it slightly so you have a better view. So we have the hole drill there. There's a little bit of a burr on the back. Just grab a bigger drill bit. In this case I have a 9.5, and I'm just going to turn that gently in the hole, not digging down too deep, and be careful of these, the flutes. They can be sharp, so don't put too much pressure on it. And we have that drilled. The next thing is to remove the excess material and cut it, and bend it, sorry. Cut it. Alright, this is the bench shears here. If you want to cut off the excess material, this is the machine you really want to use for quick and easy cutting. If you don't feel comfortable, do some practice or use a file to remove the excess material. I'm going to do this off camera because I can't really find a place to put it on camera. Alright, this is where we bend the piece of metal. We're going to bend part 4 at 90 degrees on these two bend lines. I'm going to use the angle cube here, which is very handy for setting up angles. So loosen the lever, lift it up, stick it on and check that the angle is at 0 or close enough. Yeah, 0. So I'm going to bring that up until it reads 90 degrees. Might be difficult for you to see there. And that's 89.90. I don't think you're going to get much better than that. Alright, that's 90 bang on. So I'm clamping that down in that position now, and machine won't go beyond 90 now. So I'm going to just bend along the two lines. So lifting it in, putting the piece of metal in the exact spot, clamping down, hold that just in case it slips, and this hasn't been set up quite right. Put that in again and try it again. And if we lift this up, it should stop at 90 degrees, and it does. Turn the piece around, you can see we have a decent bend there. Turn the piece around, clamp it in place a second time, and lift it up. And there we go, we have our piece bent to 90 degrees. Now, I do actually recommend in future taking off the plastic before you do the bending. If you're bending internal bends, that can be a problem. But all of this material can be removed later on, and we'll have our nice piece finished. So that's part 4 done. Sometimes this is slightly out, you can just squeeze that with your finger. It is aluminium, it is going to bend okay. Alright, once you have that piece done, then you can move on to whichever piece next that you want to do.